Hello, Mr. Langley. I really hope that you're the only one watching this because otherwise I might be a little bit embarrassed. But this is my video project for Postmodernism for the final. So basically what I plan on doing is talking about Postmodernism in general, defining it a little bit, and then going through the objectives, talking about how each objective, or explaining it with Postmodernism, and the pieces of literature that I chose were several songs by Bob Dylan. So as I go through the objectives, I will just fit him in there and say how he portrayed postmodernism. So the first objective is, how does religion fit into postmodernism? So postmodernism can be defined as changes or after the modern times in history, literature, culture, things like that, basic society. It's almost like tearing down the hands that offer you all the answers, like the absolute answers. Postmodernism is focused on finding the truth for oneself, very individual. Everyone has different ideas, so it's kind of hard to define or to defy right and wrong, true or false, good or evil. So that fits into religion because the main religion during this time was Christianity, which it still is. But Christianity is a religion solely based on tradition. Old ways, like nothing really changes. It is the absolute interpretation of other people's experiences. So this would definitely clash with the ideas of postmodernism because while Christianity is based on like unity, we all achieve understanding by each other, postmodernism believes in finding out what we individually, like ourself, believes in. But it did help promote religious tolerance because while we understand each other, then the more you understand something, the more you are apt to tolerate it. One example from Bob Dylan was the song "Blowin' in the Wind," which I did use in my previous final, or my previous part of the final. Basically, Bob Dylan is asking questions as to why we live in this world full of corruption, which could be called a godless world if you want to get a little bit extreme about it. Bob Dylan does a lot of, when he talks in his lyrics, it's almost like rebellion. That might be a little bit of a harsh word, but he's going out against society, which in religion, going against everyone believing in the same thing, or everyone picking one thing to believe in and throwing it all aside. He's kind of challenging that. Like, why should it have to be that way? The second objective is, how is figurative language and form used in postmodernism? Bob Dylan is an excellent example of figurative language in postmodernism. Figurative language can be defined by Webster's dictionary as using metaphors, similes, personification, etc. to explain something directly. Not with just Bob Dylan, but in other works of literature, figurative language was used to describe problems with society without actually coming forth and directly saying them, which probably was used like that because that would be a little bit more like rebellion. But one example from Bob Dylan is "Like a Rolling Stone." This song tells the story of a girl who used to live in extravagance, the finer things in life, and then later comes to find herself living on the streets and she doesn't know how to take care of herself. So one simile used in this would be literally in the title, "Like a Rolling Stone," meaning like a person who has to make it on their own, or it never stays in one place at the same time. The next objective is, how does postmodernism address nature? Which was a little bit harder to explain using Bob Dylan songs, but in the song "A Hard Rain's a Gonna Fall," I use this as an example because it really does just come out and say, it talks about things in nature like, I've stumbled on the side of 12 misty mountains, I've been out in front of a dozen dead oceans, things like that. And I think that that could be another example of figurative language, because Bob Dylan is not talking, he's not literally out in front of a dozen dead oceans. He is using these things to describe negative things in society. So you can kind of see where this all links together. The next is, how does human nature or psychology fit into postmodernism? Which is a huge part, I think, in Bob Dylan's songs, but in a huge part in postmodernism, because he does portray the ideas of postmodernism in his songs. So I think I'm going to tie this in with the ideas of government and society. How is postmodernism affected by government and society? Because they go together. Government and society was looked upon as corrupted, as having problems, or causing the problems of the world, which links to the ungodly part. But one song, Subterranean Homesick Blues, it's a little busy, there are a lot of lyrics, it's just a little all over the place, but basically it is describing the life of what an average person, I guess, would be, which includes like trying to dodge the government or get around it, or dealing with the problems in society. And one problem during Bob Dylan's time, the 1960s, was the civil rights movement. And I think that that could also be tied into postmodernism, because it was the African Americans, or the people of black descent, going out and fighting for, like, rebelling, I guess, to get the rights that they deserved. And that's why Bob Dylan is asking, or depicting in his lyrics, why is the society like this? So human nature would definitely be the I think the thing that sparked postmodernism, because without the nature of the government ignoring the problems, or society ignoring the problems, not going out and directly fixing them, I think that's what started it, probably. The next objective is, what is the American dream of postmodernism? So as I was researching and doing a little bit of reading and breaking down lyrics about Dylan and other artists, as I started thinking about it, I noticed that there were some similarities with the lyrics and the ideas they're portraying, and one of those was equality among people, which again would go along with the civil rights movement. But it seems to me that they just wanted everyone to be happy, everyone to have equal opportunities, equal rights. That equals happiness or fairness. Well, kind of in Like a Rolling Stone, the girl is living on her own, or like living on the streets, which obviously is not the American dream, but everyone has to fight for it. It's not just handed to you, but which is one part of it. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Happy life is not just handed to you, and postmodernists do not want it handed to them, but they have to go out and find it. It's about knocking down those hands that give it to you and finding it on your own, finding your true meaning of happiness. So I think the American dream was having, well, like I said, equal opportunities. Everyone is equal and everyone's happy, and there's no corruption. The problems in society are faced and fixed instead of just ignoring it and letting it build and build and build. And the last objective that I'm going to go over is, why did literature change throughout time? Well, I think literature changes with the events going on. So that ties in with the American dream. Before, during the modernism time, the American dream was suburbs, having the same car, having the new technology, new refrigerators, everyone lived in the cookie cutter lifestyle. And I think that started changing because people either got bored with it or realized that being the same didn't mean we were all equal. So I think literature changed and started to get this counterculture type of thing, especially in the 1960s, because the times are changing. I mean, that's a Bob Dylan song, "The times they are a-changin'." We need to face them, or they did during this time. They needed to face them, couldn't ignore them anymore. It wasn't like it was going away. A lot of things were happening during this time, and I think they were just trying to make the point, hey, we need to speak out. This isn't going to change unless we change it, and if we don't change it, then it will get worse. And it's very general, but there were a lot of things going on during this time. So, all in all, I think that Bob Dylan did an excellent job of portraying postmodernism, because in his lyrics he did leave kind of gaps and spaces in the meanings. He never really came out and said it, which kind of exemplifies the idea that one has to think about it themselves and find their own meaning. So I guess that is concluding my project. Thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry it is a little bit lengthy and I talked a lot, but my works cited I will just email to you if that's okay. It is literally the exact same thing as my essay, so if you get 2 of them, do not be alarmed. And I really appreciate you watching this, so thank you, Mr. Langley.